My mind gets agitated and overwhelmed because of my sensitivity. How can I live in a state of gratitude and calmness? How can I live in my true self and stop the process of adding more negativity? Whether you consider yourself sensitive or not, either way, the mind gets agitated and overwhelmed. This is a product of the mind. What to do with it? Well, we've spoken a lot over the last couple of nights about dealing with the monkey mind. How do we take care of the mind? But what's most important is our awareness first that we are not the mind. So simply having the ability to say, my mind is agitated, is actually a huge step in the right direction. What most of us say is, I'm agitated, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm angry, I'm in a bad mood, I'm whatever. So simply to understand my mind is agitated means, well, there's a part of me that's not my mind. Mind that was agitated, okay. But the one who says my mind is separate. And that separation from who I am to the body, mind that I have is the key to whether we say enlightenment, whether we say awakening, or whether we simply say peace and joy. Because all of that which causes suffering is due to me identifying as the body and the mind. So I think I am this physical body. I am my name, I am my culture, I am where I come from, I am the color of my skin. I am what I look like, I am my bank account. I am whether I'm successful, whether I'm a failure. I am my relationships. मैं उसकी पत्नी हूँ, मैं उसकी माँ हूँ, मैं उसकी बेटी हूँ. I'm this one's mother, this one's daughter, this one's sister, this one's wife, this one's husband, this one's boss. As I identify as that, it leads to suffering. Because everything that I see in the outer world, either it makes me angry, or it makes me feel greedy, or it makes me feel lustful, or it makes me feel competitive, or I want to change it. If you could just speak in this way, or behave in that way, or do this, or do that, tab main shant ho sakti hu. Then I could be peaceful. तुम्हारी वजह से मेरा शांति खत्म हो जाता है. Due to you, I'm not peaceful. Due to you, I'm not joyful. Well, that's all this false identification with the body. जैसे मैं चाहती हूँ, जो मैं चाहती हूँ, जिस तरह से मैं चाहती हूँ, जिससे मैं चाहती हूँ. All of what I want is due to this identification of the body and mind. I am my desires. I am my emotions. I am what's happened to me that has made me how I am. Well, though I'm just like that. I'm an anxious person. As the questioner asked, I'm a sensitive person. This is all the identification. You have to treat me in a certain way because I'm sensitive. Treat me in a certain way because I'm anxious. Treat me in a certain way because I'm depressed. All of this is due to the identification with the body-mind. The way out of that suffering is the identification with the soul. The awareness that I have a body. It's taller than some, shorter than some, fatter than some, thinner than some, fairer than some, darker than some, older than some, younger than some. Right? We could do this all day. Just like our cars, right? Faster than some, slower than some, newer than some, older than some, redder than some, whiter than some. I have a car. I have a body. Part of that body is my brain. And I'm not talking here about mun, the aspect of our subtle body. I'm talking about the mind that's associated with the brain, my thoughts, my emotions, my history, my identification, my habits, my patterns. We spoke last night about how every time you get angry, rather than letting it out, rather than being free, it actually makes you more likely to get angry. That becomes your habit. So to be aware that I have a mind means I'm not the mind. And yeah, the mind has habits. We call them sanskaras. They come from my past, whether past this birth, past other births, it doesn't matter. The nature of the mind is to go up and down. We've spoken about the monkey mind a lot the last few days. It's the nature of the mind. But when you understand I'm not the mind, then it doesn't cause that disturbance deep within the self. In the same way that you may go and you may sit at a piano to play. You want to play like Mozart or Beethoven, but hote nahi hai. No matter how much you play, hote nahi aapse. You feel a little frustrated, or you want to sing. You want to sing like you sang. But hote nahi hai. Okay, but I understand कि मेरे उंगलियां हैं, मेरे गला है. Not as good as some, better than some, not as good as some. Not exactly the way I want it to be. But it's not going to make my sense of self be impacted and suffer. I'm not going to lose myself because I can't play the piano the way I want to, or because I can't sing the way I want to. And in the same way, when I understand my mind, what I'm able to realize is, in the same way that in order to play the piano or sing or play basketball or do math excellently, I have to train myself. I have to spend time. I have to practice. And it's the same thing with the mind. It takes practice. Whatever we want in life from any part of our body takes practice, takes time. This is why we have spiritual practices. It's to get us to the place where we're able to not be the slave of the mind. Yes, the mind fluctuates. The practice of yoga calms the fluctuations of the mind, right? This is what the Yoga Sutras tell us. The practice of meditation, the practice of prayer connects us with the divine, takes us into a place that is much deeper than the shallow level fluctuations. Allows me not to be the slave of my mind, jumping around. So don't worry whether it's because you're sensitive or whether it's just because you're human. We get anxious, we get overwhelmed. The spiritual practice we do enables us to identify not as the anxiety, not as the overwhelm, not as the anger. Because where does anxiety or overwhelm come from? It comes from that identification. I want something. Agar nahi hoga to, if my child doesn't get into the college I want him to go to, if I don't get into the college I want to go to, if I don't get the job I want, to fir uske baad kya hoga? To fir anxiety shuru hota. The anxiety comes kyunki I want something and I'm worried ki shayad nahi hoga, shayad nahi milega. That aspect of maybe it won't happen is what causes anxiety. or if I'm not able to make it happen. I've told you 100 times how to treat me. Why can't you treat me this way? Why don't you clean your room? Why don't you do the dishes? I was so peaceful before you came home. Now look, you've stolen my peace. Nobody has stolen our peace. We have thrown our peace in a trash can. All the other person simply did was drop a sweater on the floor, or drop all their clothes on the floor. Not do the dishes, not take out the trash, not get a good mark on an exam. That's all they've done. They haven't reached inside you and grabbed your peace. What has happened is we have taken our peace and voluntarily we have hooked it into whether you clean your room, whether you do the dishes, what grade you get on the exam, how much money I'm making, how much I weigh, how people treat me, whether I achieve my vision of success. I have reached inside myself and said, take my Shanti and hook it in. Hook it into what you do. Hook it into the people around me. Hook it into the stock market. Hook it into the traffic. That's my decision. And this is where the spiritual practice says no. My peace is a product of my awareness. That I'm not whether you clean your room, I'm not a clean room, I'm not a sink full of done dishes. I'm not my child's education or my own education. I'm not the money in my bank account. So who I am doesn't have to go up and down with these things. Who I am is stable. Who I am is eternal. Who I am is consciousness. Divinity. And so simply being aware of my mind is a very important first step. And then when you know my mind, that's when the training begins. Okay, why do I get anxious? What is it I'm expecting of the world that my peace is worth throwing away when it doesn't happen? It's a tragic irony. Ijat to chale gaye, paisa to chale gaye, rishta chale gaye, clean dishes chale gaye, clean room chale gaye, ab main apni shanti bhi phenk दूं. It's really tragic. All of that has already happened that I had no control over. And now I've taken the one thing I do have control over and have decided to throw it in with that. Our peace, our joy is something that needs to stay connected only to us. I share frequently the beautiful line from this amazing saint who used to live right across Ganga from us. And he said, success, he said, I don't care how much money you make. Success, the only definition of success that matters is how you respond. How you respond to the inevitable times when the universe does not act the way you think it should. Success is how you respond when the universe does not act in the way you think it should. That was Puja Swami Dayananji Maharaj, who used to live here. And that's our vision of success. And if I hold that, then now my peace becomes paramount. Other people may be moving through their own karmic package in whatever way they do. Whether it's with anger, whether it's with greed, whether it's with cheating, whether it's with betrayal, whether it's with negativity. But my peace, my joy, my spiritual grounding is first and foremost to me. No, I am not prepared to hook it into what you do. I'm not prepared to hook it into your karmic package and how you choose to deal with it. Because that's what's going on. We all have our own karmic packages. And we're all working through them. And they usually involve some version of greed and anger and fear and confusion. But if I take my peace and hook it into how you are living, then what I've said is my ego, my attachment, my desire is more important than my peace. And it's just not. And that's a choice we all have to make. Is my peace, is my joy, is my spiritual life less important than whether a room is clean? Is it really less important than if the dishes are done? I mean, really? On what scale are clean dishes more important than inner peace? On what scale is a clean room, or flowers, or chocolates, or whatever it may be that we're getting, we're not getting, that's causing our tension? The fluctuation of a stock market, the fluctuation of other people's moods, the fluctuation of our weight, of our skin tone, of how we measure up to the beauty of our culture, which keeps changing. Is that really more important than our peace? Of course not, because crazily enough, the peace and the joy is what we're looking for. If you say to somebody, Acha, why do you want to be rich anyway? Chalo tika maan lo. You're anxious. Kyunki paisa chahiye. Paisa nahi hai, you want paisa. Okay. Why do you want money? Kyunki fir main khush ho jaungi. Fir shanti milega. Right? This is the irony. Jo shanti abhi mera paas hai. I'm throwing it away to run after money ताकि थोड़ा सा पैसा मिलेगा, फिर मैं शांत हो जाऊंगी, फिर मैं खुश हो जाऊंगी. You see the craziness of this. I have peace. I have peace in this moment. If I can let go of the attachment to how I think things should be. Whether it's the number in my bank account or anything else. It's my own attachment to that that's stealing my peace. So if what I want is peace, well, we can have it right now. All we have to give up is our attachment to that which we're holding with a death grip because we're convinced that that's the thing that's going to bring us peace. That's the thing that's going to bring us joy. I just have to get that. And this is the vicious cycle that most people live in. And whether it's our physical health or our mental health, I think it was His Holiness the Dalai Lama who said, you know, that the tragic irony these days is we give up everything in the service of wealth. And then we try to use our money to buy it all back. So we give up our health, physical, mental, spiritual. We give up our happiness, we give it all up to run after money. And then we try to use the money that we have to buy back our health, to buy our happiness. And that's the irony. So if we can just keep remembering, my mind means I'm not mind. Means I'm not a slave to it. Mind has got a pattern of chemical and electrical behavior going on, okay. But me shantun. I am peaceful. And it's possible. It's absolutely possible. I say this to you both from experience, personal experience, from what I've seen, and from two of my most favorite farthest out on the spectrum stories of this in terms of how you can be regardless of what's going on in your brain. And it's two versions of the exact same story, both of them true from what I know, which is Paramahansa Yogananda and Neem Karoli Baba. Two very, very, very renowned, divine, enlightened, spiritual masters of this tradition. Both of them had disciples from abroad who, although they lived decades apart, both of whom decided to give their guru LSD, which is a very, very, very powerful chemical. For those of you who don't know what it is, very, very powerful chemical drug that people take. And it causes incredible hallucinations. Whether Neem Karoli Baba, whether Paramahansa Yogananda, neither of them was impacted at all. And both of their disciples tell stories and have written books about how, and for both of them, it wasn't just one, it was like 2, 3, 4. I think Neem Karoli Baba was given like 4 hits of acid. Went on about his day. They said it was impossible to tell that anything had been given to him. Same was the story with Yogananda. And I share this only because we feel like the slaves of a brain that has, a slight imbalance in serotonin or a slight imbalance in dopamine or a slight imbalance in some of the neurotransmitters. Temporary. Our chemicals are not maybe exactly what we would like them to be. And so we say, oh, I'm depressed. I can't function. I'm anxious. I can't function. And not to minimize the chemical nature of illnesses, which is very real, but just to remind us of the power of the self over the brain. A little bit of serotonin or dopamine here and there, slightly less or slightly more than we'd like, is nothing compared to the impact of 4 hits of LSD on your brain. And if they could go on about their life exactly the same way, just as peacefully, just as mindfully, just as grounded, it means we have the power. I'm not saying don't make the best use of all of the options that we have for healing. That's a different subject. But just in terms of knowing who's in charge, me or my mind, me or my brain, and recognizing the farthest end of the spectrum potential of when you really recognize, it's just my brain. Okay, it's having some things happen to it, but I'm here. I'm grounded. I'm centered. I'm peaceful. I'm joyful. And if we all can move just a little bit in that direction, most of us don't get slipped 4 hits of LSD during, our day. If we can manage just the fluctuations of the normal brain waves, we can be the masters of our own peace, our own joy.